What's going on, FA Nation? Happy Monday, or sad Monday, however you want to look at it. The weekend seemingly goes by too fast, right, John? I mean,
Yeah.
we let's condense the weeks, make it a 4-day work week, and everybody will be happy. I don't know if anyone really important around the is watching this, but from Fantasy Alarm to you, we think that it should be a 4-day work week, but.
Yeah.
We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the 9-game slate we have on tap. John, you were on the playbook today. You've digested the 27 million injuries and counting because we prior to coming on, we set an over-under, and we set that over-under at 3. And the over-under is how many people during this live stream will be ruled out. And notable, not just like Joe Schmo, not like, just a random guy. Notable injuries. We put it at 3. We're both kind of on the over right now. So, how do you feel about this slate considering it's crazy? Like, I'm just going to throw it. Like, that's just how to describe it as of right now. It's crazy.
I mean, there's just a bajillion people that are getting ruled out. And like you said, they're big names. I mean, I'll read off some of them. I know you run down the injuries, but I got them in front of me right now. Russell Westbrook's out. Kawhi Leonard's out. DeMarcus Cousins out. McCollum's out. Blake Griffin is out. Iguodala, Holmes, Oubre, Tyler Johnson, Otto Porter, Dennis Smith Jr., Justice Winslow's ruled out. There's just Kevin Love is ruled out. There's so many guys that are all ruled out tonight, which creates just all of the possible value you can think of, which means lineups are going to be probably 1, superstars and scrubs, and 2, pretty high scoring, I have to assume.
Yeah, especially, I mean, there's like 20, like, it's crazy to think about, but there's like 20 chalk value plays you could play. Yeah. And if you pick the right combination, you're going to score 360 points just based off your chalk, as long as your contrarian plays go off. So it is definitely going to be a high-scoring night. We have to pick the right value. You already mentioned you ran down pretty much every notable injury. And I'm sure and
if you want to see them in list form, go check out the playbook because I had to put them all there. There's just so many of them. I just wanted everybody to visualize the names that are out. I've been updating that as they come through. So again, if you want to see everybody who's ruled out, we have a lineups page. You can certainly go to the Fantasy Lineups page. Check out the guys there. But also, if you click on today's playbook in the header today, where usually there isn't always content, it's just the list of injuries. So put in perspective what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice little addition, nice little visual for everybody to have. Because again, if you don't have a pen and paper in front of you or a Word doc open, like, you're not going to be able to keep up with this. And if you're just someone who's on your phone, you're just scrolling through, like, it's good to have. When we flip over to Vegas, 5 of the 9 are currently over 220. We're looking at New Orleans, Dallas as the focal point, at least in terms of Vegas totals. 232.5 there. Dallas 4.5-point favorites. Boy, have not the mighty, because New Orleans was never great, but boy, they had a pretty solid roster just a few months ago when everything was still peaches and dandelions or whatever. It's like warm and fuzzy. I don't know. That was, I'm tired.
On tangents. What we got?
Yeah, whatever. But we have a 9-game slate. So, John, before we hop into that, I know you have some words to give to the great people at FA Nation.
We do. It's all MLB products are on sale right now. Absolute madness here at Fantasy Alarm. We're crushing prices on all of our products for the NCAA tournament. Want the edge to win from draft to championship, plus dominate in daily. With the MLB Playbook Pro, you get Jim Button's Draft Guide, the Ultimate Cheat Sheet, plus 5,000 features and 35 seasonal DFS tools, plus live chat every day. Go to fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Use promo code MADNESS to get an extra 25% off the already low price. That's fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Promo code MADNESS to get 25% off. I think last I had looked, it was like $100, so that's still the cost, and 25% off. It's just a great deal there. Won't do math on air. It's a number we're looking for, so get to it. fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Promo code MADNESS. Get 25% off to get the entire MLB package.
Right, and MLB actually begins Wednesday evening or morning, however you want to look at it, for us East Coasters. 5:35 for people like the Howard Benders of the world, and 2:35 in the morning if you're gonna just stay. You might as well just stay up at that point. But 9-game slate, big slate, John. Let's hop right into it. Let's start at point guard, where we always start. And we were talking about on the podcast last night of how loaded the position was. And that didn't really change throughout the day, especially now with the injury news that we kind of had break and
it got deeper with
Kyle
Lowry.
Right, 100% agree, because that's not just Kyle Lowry, and now we get Fred VanVleet in the starting lineup as well. So, but let's start at the top of your playbook, where you wrote down basically the three guys we were kind of like, what do we do? Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry. Lillard's without CJ McCollum. His usage rate is 1 million. Kyrie Irving is on an absolute tear. 1 assist or 1 rebound shy of back-to-back triple-doubles. And now Steph Curry we're reverting back to the Warriors where there was no DeMarcus Cousins. So, like, what are we doing at the top here, John, between these top three? And you know what? For this, because Elfrid Payton is also 9,300 on FanDuel,
right? Let's
throw him into the mix too, because let's not just get rid of the walking triple-double that is Elfrid Payton right now. So let's talk about all four of them in one. We'll
talk about the top of the point guard position. So, I mean, Elfrid Payton on DraftKings is an absolute must-play. $7,500, 4 straight triple-doubles. He's got a great matchup here against Dallas. Jalen Brunson defensively, too small, not going to be able to handle Payton. 2 bad teams, two bad teams with like 2 evenly matched teams. So this should be like a competitive, high-scoring game where it honestly wouldn't shock me if Payton's able to go ahead and get another triple-double. You and I talked about him a lot on the podcast. Like, he's sort of this mini Rajon Rondo. He fills up the stat sheet. Since Drew Holiday's gone out, he's been doing absolutely everything. So love Payton over on DraftKings. FanDuel, I still have him in lineups on FanDuel. People in our subscriber chat kind of like cringed at the name and paying $9,300 for Payton. But if you like blocked out the name and saw 4 straight triple doubles, you probably would have thought it was Russell Westbrook.
Right.
So I mean, who am I to sit here and deny what he's been doing? So I still like Payton in all formats. Steph Curry, great. Yeah, I liked him better with the idea that Durant was going to be out. I think that lowers his ceiling a little bit, but you're still probably going to get mid-40s in production. So I think he's a safe cash gains play. I like Irving in all formats, and Lillard's a GPP play for me because the Pacers are one of the best teams defensively against the position, and they did hold him in check that first game they played against one another. But he does, as you mentioned, 40% usage rate, 1.5 fantasy points per minute with McCollum off the floors. So it's going to be pretty difficult to totally shut him down, but I don't know if he's going to hit the 10K cost. Just given the matchup, we've seen them shut down some good point guards this year.
It's crazy to me, and I completely agree with you. The first thing you said about Elfrid Payton was that on DraftKings, he's a must-play. He is currently projected to be the least owned of the 4 on DraftKings. That's just, that's something that we should definitely consider when building our lineups. Moving down the list, we have Colin Sexton coming in smoking hot, and an absolutely depleted Cleveland team. There's going to be guys that you've never seen before playing this evening. We have Jalen Brunson. We have Fred VanVleet. That's a tongue twister if you say that five times fast. And then, we're getting into the value. I mean, VanVleet is dipping into the value, but
VanVleet's value.
If let's just talk mid-tier and value tier, because there's a lot of and you know what? Let's throw Kyle Lowry in there too now that he's back in the equation too, because it's the Knicks, and I mean, it's no Kawhi Leonard, and that's something we've attacked all year. We've attacked Kyle. Ad nauseum.
He's like almost like a 2010 guy. It seems like whenever Leonard's out of the lineup, you get to attack man and Moody defense, one of the worst in the NBA. We love going against the Knicks all season long. Anyways, I guess I worry now how competitive the team's going to be regardless. They still have Gasol, they have Lowry, they have Siakam. Like, they still have a really good team, and the Knicks are terrible. So Lowry at his 8K price is a GPP play for me. There is obviously upside there, and if for whatever reason they're able to keep it close to the Knicks for a little while, then the game's going to be competitive. That's fine. I love the mid-tier, in terms of Sexton and Brunson. Sexton's already playing, 38 minutes a night, it seems like. He gets Detroit, tagging Reggie Jackson defense, what we love. The Pistons are without now Blake Griffin, so maybe that game stays a little bit closer than it was before. I understand that there's no Kevin Love or Larry Nance or Tristan Thompson for Cleveland, but Sexton and Osman, they can go ahead and probably just carry that offense for a while. So I still like Sexton. Even in a blowout, those two guys are playing all the minutes regardless. And then we talk about Brunson. I mean, we still don't know the official word on Doncic tonight. If he gets ruled out, Brunson's going to get a bump regardless. Brunson's going to play a lot of minutes against, Elf Payton defense. Again, Elf Payton's one of the guys we just absolutely love targeting, just how bad he is on the defensive side. You mentioned VanVleet. I liked him more if I thought Lowry was going to be out, but he still starts next to Lowry when Kawhi Leonard sits, so he's still going to have that value. He's still going to be a guy that we have to pay attention to. And who knows, maybe Lowry's limited, or maybe this is a blowout, and they go to Van Vliet to play the majority of the blowout minutes too. So definitely some value there against the Knicks. Again, terrible defensive team just all across the board. And then we get to Justice Winslow news right before we jumped on air. He's ruled out again. Goran Dragic played 29 minutes the other night, had a really strong showing. He's played really well when he's able to stay on the court and be healthy this year. And now he's going to get Dennis Schroeder defense, who, again, we say this a lot, but like one of the worst defensive point guards in the NBA. Teams don't play a lot of defense, but Schroeder is one of the worst at it. And Dragic is going to tear him apart, in my opinion, for 30 minutes if he's, gets on the floor and starts tonight. So you're telling me $4,100 over on FanDuel rather, where typically those guys are priced up higher. It's really hard to beat that price. And then I don't even have the Anthony Melton on there. People are asking about him.
Right.
He played well the other night, and again, you can chase that if you want. It's knowing that guys are out like Kelly Oubre and whatnot. That there's a competitive game here against a bad Bulls team. Melton's cheaper, and he could be just as good.
I wanted to spitball him, and I was going to spitball one more potential value play and get your thoughts. And I already know what's coming, but for ownership perspective, Raymond Felton, min salary on FanDuel. Or min salary on DraftKings, $4,000 on FanDuel. Any interest in Raymond Felton?
So no, because there's too much other value on the slate that we don't need to go for 18 minutes for Raymond Felton. But I did notice, I went back and looked like, all right, who played backup point guard when Westbrook was out for like the 8 games back in, November? And I did see Felton was the one that was getting, the boost around 20 minutes a night. So no, I'm not going to go there because there's just so many other guys. Right. But, if you want a game stack, get Uber Contrarian or whatever. Yeah, okay.
All right, so let's move over to shooting guard, and I think it's actually a perfect segue. We don't have to start at the top since, Raymond Felton is going to be the backup point guard. Dennis Schroeder is going to be the starter. Right. And we saw him countless times earlier in the year play 35-plus minutes. What is your thoughts on Dennis Schroeder replacing Russell Westbrook? Do you trust him in cash? Do you only play him in tournaments? Like, what's your take on Dennis Schroeder tonight?
Yeah, so as I said on the podcast last night, whenever you listen to it, I wasn't a big fan of Schroeder, even though I know that the ownership's going to be on him because he is so cheap. He didn't really put up big numbers when Russell Westbrook was out of the lineup last time. But again, it's an ownership play. He's at 30% on DraftKings, 27% on FanDuel. The price is too right for him, so I am playing him tonight. I just don't think he's going to go for 40. I think he could probably go 25 to 30 if he really gets it going. So I don't love him, but he just fits roster builds too nicely. Shooting guard isn't as deep as it typically is on normal nights. And just knowing that he's going to be counter 40% ownership, I think you really have to go there for the mid-tier. The top of the tier, again, is strong, though. Obviously, we have Bradley Beal. I found out today that his nickname is Big Panda. Had no idea. Would have never guessed that. I called him Mr. Automatic because we talk about him all the time in our podcast. He's giving you 50, really, regardless of what it's going to be. He gets Utah tonight. I know that's typically a tough matchup, but they're in Washington where they just score a bunch of points back and forth. So hard to ignore Bradley Beal, even though he is expensive tonight. And then you get that news that Oubre and Porter are both being out on the opposite sides of this Phoenix-Chicago game. It makes me go right to Booker and Levine and think that those two guys are just going to go back and forth and trade shots.
Yeah, and that was kind of the next, where we'd be looking. I mean, you can play Clay, I think, but it probably is more hindered on the Durant news, right?
Clay, he played well with Durant.
Right.
He's on an incredible streak right now. And I still think you can play him. But again, it's more of a GPP-only play. Again, he was one of my top plays had Durant sat. It just wasn't the case tonight. So you can definitely play him. He could go off and win you a slate because no one's on him anymore. Everybody's going to be on Booker. Everybody's going to be on Levine probably and whatnot. So, stacking Warriors as a contrarian play is usually always a pretty good idea.
Right. And especially no Cousins. You stack the big three and maybe even Draymond if you want, throw that out there. Booker and Levine more cash games for you than Clay or?
Yeah, for sure. Booker and Levine more cash. But they're all, again, if you put Klay Thompson in your cash game lineup, I'm not going to look at it and you'd be like, oh man, what are you doing? Got to go learn to play. So no, they're all in play for me. I really like Luka too tonight. If he would just be active, we have a lot of high ownership projections on him. So if he's in the lineup tonight, I really think he's a good, the guy's another triple double threat. So, I like the top if you're spending up. The mid tiers we mentioned Schroeder, Dotson's okay. Like knowing that they're going to start Van Vliet at shooting guard, like that's a good matchup for Dotson. Van Vliet's sort of a smaller guard, so Dotson's playing really well. Can take advantage of that. It's not like he has to deal with the green defense there or anything like that. So Dotson's fine. Jaylen Brown scored 20-plus points, 20 actual plus points in 3 straight games. No Gordon Hayward tonight. The bench rotation's smaller. So you could see almost 30-plus minutes out of Brown tonight, and he could keep it going. So I like Jaylen Brown as another shooting guard option as well.
Anyone else? You ready to move on to small forward?
Yeah, I'm ready to move down. There wasn't many value that I had too much interest in at the shooting guard position.
At the top of the small forward position, we have Paul George, who you don't seem to be too fond of, at least as much as you were earlier in the year. There is obviously no Russell Westbrook, so big use. It's not actually a big bump in usage, but the ball is going to go through Paul George a lot more than it normally does without Russell Westbrook. Yeah. So I think it's pretty safe to say he's probably the top one small forward, at least on FanDuel, because there aren't a lot of spend ups. I mean, it kind of is trendy. Like that's a trendy thing. Like when there's one spend up on FanDuel at a position, they're generally higher owned, even in not a great spot. So I think that's kind of gonna happen again tonight. I mean, Paul George has a pretty hefty ownership projection tonight. Where else are you looking? I mean, you had Otto Porter, which obviously sucks. He has been dealing with the knee on and off, where he's questionable, probable, questionable, gonna play, probable. Now it's a shoulder. Where are we going with Porter kind of down? Oubre's down. Where else are we looking at small forward once we get Paul George? Because it's not a very deep position. Well, at least at the top, it's not a very deep position.
No, right. I had to make some pivots, obviously, in the playbook there. 2 of the guys just got randomly ruled out.
Right.
Really out of nowhere. Oubre out of nowhere was questionable all of a sudden, then ruled out. Porter wasn't even questionable all day. He just got ruled out. As I said in chat, out of the clouds, Otto Porter gets ruled out. So I think you obviously go to some of the backups that we're going to have there. I think Wayne Selden's a shooting guard, I believe, on FanDuel. He might be a shooting guard small forward on DraftKings. So he's a guy that could get additional run. We saw him play a lot of minutes the other day when Porter was ruled out. With Oubre, we're figuring Josh Jackson. We're thinking Michael Bridges. Those guys can see additional run. Bridges is already playing 38 minutes. He can't possibly see more court time. But the fact that an offensive player as dominant as Oubre is out of the lineup now, maybe more shots are there to go around, and Bridges can benefit from that. So I definitely like those 2 guys. I'm in on Cedi Osman. He was in the playbook before the Love injury and all that other news broke. I still think that plays, and I think the fact that there isn't going to be Blake Griffin helps him out too, because really the only big dominant force that Detroit now has is Drummond. So I really like Osman. I'm not in the playbook, but we always like Bojan. He's a guy that can always be playing, and we love attacking the small forward position over at Portland. So Bojan, again, very strong play now knowing that some of those other guys are out. On the flip side, I have Harkless and Rodney Hood in the playbook tonight. Harkless starts anyways at small forward. I think Hood could be the guy that starts at shooting guard. He played 25 minutes off the bench when McCollum went out of the game the other day. I like him more as a DraftKings play because you get that 3-point bonus, and Hood literally only scores. He rarely gives you anything else. And he's under 4K over on DraftKings at 3,700. So Hood works as another value play at the small forward position. And then one of the highest owned guys that we have in the entire slate is Mario Hezonja. We have him at 48% over on FanDuel, 33% on DraftKings. Started the other day, played all the minutes, had a playing card poster block of LeBron James, and we know that Vonleh's out and all that. So
yeah, he's officially starting. He's officially starting again tonight.
Right. So everybody's gonna play him. I don't love the matchup. He's gonna go up against Siakam, and Gasol's gonna be there. And it's not a great spot for him, but just for value and the fact that the ownership's gonna be there, you kind of have to avoid him. And then to pivot off of him, someone that's getting no ownership, and you and I talked a lot about, was OG Anunoby. He was playing a lot of minutes when Kawhi was ruled out. I understand that Van Vliet wasn't playing at that time either. But I still think he's going to get mid-20s run tonight. And I do like Anunoby as sort of a pivot off of those guys.
My one drawback with Anunoby and Powell and McCaw is that they could all potentially just eat into each other's minutes. And that's, like you mentioned earlier, I don't remember, I think it was with Raymond Felton. There is so much value that I do agree that he could be a play. We've seen him score 20 plus actual points in a game. So it's not
They're more game stack plays, we'll say.
Right. They are definitely more game stack plays. And every time a Toronto star is out, seemingly 3 to 4 of their guys are chalk. So you could definitely stack that team. Anyone else, you ready to move on to power forward?
I'm ready.
Over at the power forward position, Blake Griffin officially ruled out. So it really comes down to there's not a lot of like spend ups at power forward. We have LaMarcus Aldridge. We have Julius Randle, who is with Anthony Davis as of now.
Still waiting for the Anthony Davis to be ruled out. So
still, as of now, Anthony Davis is playing.
Yeah.
So obviously we know if Anthony Davis sits, we are immediately pivoting to Julius Randle because
he might be my top play of the slate if Anthony Davis sits.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about it last night in the pod that at 8K, there's still upside even if Anthony Davis plays, but at 8K without Anthony Davis, forget it. It's just too cheap. We saw him at 9K 2 weeks ago with Anthony Davis in the lineup. So where are you going? Is Aldridge interest you? Does Randle interest you? I mean, the top option you have is Aldridge, and then I think everyone's going to play Siakam. I think that's where we should all go. We've talked about it all year long with Kawhi out. Siakam just balls, man. He just balls. Is Siakam the top? Is that the top power forward on the board? If not, like, where else are you looking?
Yeah, I mean, I like Siakam. He's in all formats. We talked about it. Just hard to fade him when Leonard's out. I like LMA. He went for 55 against the Warriors earlier. No Cousins is going to be there. So I think that's a decent play for him. I still have Anthony Davis as GPP play over on DraftKings. I know you and I kind of go back and forth. But at this point he needs 36 fantasy points. He's been doing that pretty much every time he steps foot on the floor. So Anthony Davis, as long as he's active, is in play. Paul Millsap is still, I think, a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. I know the matchup is tough. Obviously, Boston's a strong defensive team. Marcus Morris is really playing motivated basketball right now. But even like a bad game the other day, Millsap still put up almost 40 fantasy points against an even better defense in the Pacers. So I do like Millsap. I think he's a great DFS play because he can go ahead and get you a double-double with like 3 blocks and 2 steals, and FanDuel especially, break a slate for you there. I had Draymond in the playbook. I'm Xing him out now that Durant's in there.
Right.
I would have really preferred it to be like the original big 3 that they had in Golden State. I would have felt there was been more value there. You've been all over Maxi Kleber. I mean, the guy has got over 30 fantasy points now in 3 of the last 4 double-doubles in 3 of those 4 games there. So he is a strong play. And yeah, I mean, like I said, you can kind of go down the list. There's other value guys. Josh Jackson's a power forward over on FanDuel. I like Marcus Morris a lot. He's priced up pretty low, coming off back-to-back double-double games. The power forward's a strong position. Any other power forwards on your radar here?
What do you think of Dragon Bender? He's likely going to start again, and I think does Oubre being out or Rashawn Holmes being out gives him maybe a few extra minutes. He'll probably play backup center tonight.
So I thought he was going to play backup center the other night too, when they played was Ray Spalding. I think we decided his name was.
Ray Spalding. Definitely his name.
Yeah,
his mom, his parents decided it, but we
decided last night to call him. So yeah, Bender to me again, I was disappointed with like his just lack of like offensive involvement.
Right.
Now again, Oubre being out the floor could just as easily put some more of that offensive to him. So sure, you can play. I'd rather play Jackson. I think Jackson's just the better offensive upside play. Again, he's power forward eligible across the site. So Bender's fine if you want to go there and game stack. He works.
I think you basically touch on everyone.
I'll throw Favors out there as well. I think Favors against Washington is a strong play. So
yeah, considering they can't rebound the basketball for anything.
Cannot rebound the basketball.
Yeah, so I mean, Favors is a very good rebounder in the time that he plays. Maybe we get a 27-minute game out of Favors, which is
never know.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's finish it up at center, John. We have a pretty loaded top of the position, at least from name standpoint. We have Nikola Jokic, who hasn't been great, but I mean, and it's not the easiest matchup, but it's Nikola Jokic. He has a lot of triple doubles throughout his young career thus far. Yeah. We now have Andre Drummond without Blake Griffin, and we now have Rudy Gobert against Washington, who we just said about Derek Favors can't rebound the basketball.
Right.
How would you rank them in terms of cash, and would you change your order for like a tournament if like maybe one's your favorite cash play, one's your favorite tournament play.
So Drummond's now actually my favorite spend center on the slate. Without Blake Griffin on the floor this year, he has a 26% usage rate, averaging 1.6 fantasy points per minute. I know Andy Zizic is a bigger body. He's going to be on the floor. Drummond should have little trouble, I think, in this matchup. There's really nobody else. Like, I think they're going to feed him offensively, too. Like, you know, we don't know. I don't think they've released the lineup yet, but John Lore or, like, Thon Maker maybe, Sard at power forward, like, they're not going to command anything. I think it's going to be Reggie Jackson dribbling down the floor and just throwing it inside to Andre Drummond. And so I love Drummond. He's my number one. Gobert's my number two. Because, as we mentioned, Washington just can't rebound the basketball. Gobert had a huge game against Brooklyn. You know, again, they have Bobby Portis they start. He's not going to defend Gobert. Occasionally, you know, and I was surprised to see this the other day, their first pivot or their first substitution was taking Portis off the floor and putting Jabari Parker in to play small ball center. If that happens, good luck. You know, Gobert's going to absolutely dominate there. And Favors is going to have a fun time, too, if they decide to match small ball, which is kind of why I liked Favors more in this matchup. If that's the route they go with, like, Jay Crowder, power forward, Derek Favors as small ball center, like, advantage to them. And then Thomas Bryant only sees, like, 15 minutes a game for whatever. So Gobert is my number two. As I said, I don't have Jokic in the playbook. I understand his GPP appeal. I don't think you were going to – he's not someone I would spend up for on the slate. There's just other guys I'd rather pay. Game stacking, he fits into the lineup. That's fine. Nurkic is a guy I threw in there. You know, with McCollum out, he had a huge game the other day. I think they left him on the floor probably because they needed another option to pair up with Lillard. I know it's a tough matchup against, you know, Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. But again, he's just been crushing, so I like him. I'm curious how you feel about Gasol now. I know that obviously Kawhi's out, but Lowry's playing. There's no Ibaka. Like, what do you feel about this matchup with him going up against, like, DeAndre Jordan? Like, the price point's nice. The ownership's a lot lower than we initially had thought, though. How are you feeling about Gasol?
I mean, I think it's a really good price point play, and I think it's really encouraging. And now, granted, we've seen him play 30-plus minutes in a start and then go immediately to 20. But Ibaka was also on the floor. Right. So I do think there isn't really any depth. Like, they could, I guess, theoretically play Siakam at center. But like you mentioned, DeAndre's there, Mitchell Robinson, both more traditional centers, which is why I think we see Gasol, who's a traditional center, stay on the floor more.
Right.
You know, 33 fantasy points or more in back-to-back games, I don't think that's a coincidence with Serge off the floor. And now there's just a lot of usage to go around with Kawhi off. I love it. Like, DeAndre doesn't scare me like he used to. And yes, obviously there was an obvious impact in Dallas, so maybe he does. But he made more of an impact on the glass than he did defensively. Right. Because now look at how Dallas rebounds the basketball. They don't. So I think Gasol's fine. I really like 6.2K. I actually don't mind 7K. I mean, he's basically hit that evaluation 2 games in a row. Yep. So I think we still see the 30-plus minutes out of Gasol. I have no problem playing him in all formats.
That's fine. I got Robin Lopez against Phoenix. He balled out the other day against the Clippers, the worst team in the NBA, allowing fantasy points to centers. You mentioned that Phoenix is like the second worst team in the NBA, allowing fantasy points to centers. So, again, I like Robin Lopez. DeAndre Ayton doesn't scare me here in this matchup. Again, good price for him, too, 62 and 64. He's been pretty routinely hitting those numbers. Very low ownership on him tonight as well. Jakob Poeltl, I assume he's going to start again tonight. He'll have a good matchup. There's no DeMarcus Cousins to deal with, so he's either dealing with like more of an athletic big and Kevin Looney, or Jordan Bell, who is more of a stay-at-home like shot blocker, but not really going to give him any trouble on the offensive end, or probably even the defensive end. Really, like maybe his toughest test is if they move Draymond to center and play small ball, or for like the 8 minutes that Andrew Bogut's on the floor. Right, like I have to assume maybe there'll be some trouble there for. Right. But spending down, I like Poeltl, and then Zizic is very cheap. He's 4,300 and 4,000. He might play 40 minutes tonight. Like, they don't have Marquise Chris, I guess, is their backup center / maybe starting power forward tonight. Like, I don't know the direction they're going to go with that. So, yeah, not a great matchup against Drummond, but, I mean, he could just play until he fouls out tonight. That could be the case with Zizic.
I was actually going to ask your opinion on Chris, because he's not exciting by any means, but earlier in the year,
he had that one start breaker.
Yeah, Yeah, and I mean he played well for a handful of games, and like our projections aren't. We haven't. It hasn't updated since the Kevin Love news, so I'm very intrigued by the post update, like what Chris's ownership will be and what Zizic ownership be. The other day when Zizic started in that back to back with no Kevin Love, he was on FanDuel at least was like 90% owned in cash games, and his price isn't any different.
And center is not a spot that people I don't think are going to be spending up at tonight.
Right.
Like maybe now because that the Blake Griffin news, people go to Drummond. But before that, I feel like a lot of people were going to spend down. Like I could see, again, not in the playbook, but I could see Kevin Looney, if announced as the starter before the slate starts. And they have, an 8 p.m. start time tonight, right? So, like, there's a sort of an earlier start time for Golden State than we typically get. If they announce Kevin Looney, he's been priced on FanDuel. He's, like 3,300, I think, on DraftKings or something like that. So I can see Kevin Looney being a very popular play as well. He played well, but no Cousins earlier. He's playing almost 30 minutes. So I think the direction on this slate is a lot of people spending down at center and spending up at those guards. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of people go.
We just got to hope Kevin Looney stays out of foul trouble because he's very spastic when he gets on the floor. And
Hurdle's got 10 blocks over the last 2 games, too.
Yeah, he's good. I mean, we mentioned it last night. He was a part of that Kawhi Leonard, DeMar DeRozan swap. He wasn't just like a throw-in. And the Spurs are utilizing him, as their starting center. All right, for GPPs tonight, John, we're talking tournaments only.
Mm-hmm.
I want 2 guys that you think will be under 10% that we could see. just 2 guys that you're fond of in tournaments that you could see break a slate tonight and be in like a winning GPP lineup.
I mean, just looking at our current ownerships, I mean, if Elf Payton's under 10%, sign me up for that. So I'm in on Elf Payton, and I think that we'll get under 10%. Let's go with... I'll go Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson's at 8%. I just think that the way he's rolling right now, there's a chance that he just goes off here against San Antonio. So I like those 2 guys for going under 10%. And then Dragic I like a lot. We don't even have him at a percent. So.
1%. Not even 1%.
Right.
And we know Klay. I mean, even with Boogie,
Andrew Bogut is starting tonight.
And you know what's funny? We mentioned it last night. And we said, what if Andrew Bogut started and we found out that he was going to play 20 minutes? Now, they've released Andrew Bogut. They haven't said there hasn't been an update following Andrew Bogut's going to play X amount of minutes. Right. How many does the X have to be for you to consider a min salary Andrew Bogut? Like, that X has to be Andrew Bogut has to play blank minutes for John.
I need to see 20 minutes. I need to see 20 minutes.
If it's 20, are you interested in Andrew Bogut min salary?
If we find out he's going to play 20 minutes tonight, I'll have at min price. I'll have some interest because he is going to get probably like 4 rebounds, score twice, and block like a shot or 2, and there's your 15 on DraftKings. So. Yeah,
Zizic or Bogut?
What?
Zizic or Bogut?
Zizic. He's playing more minutes. Yeah, that's not that hard.
If Andrew Bogut's not on a minutes restriction.
He has to.
He says who? It's not like he's he's playing in the Australian.
He's been on a minutes restriction for 5 years.
Aussie, oi.
Oh, no, he doesn't play. He's never played 30 minutes even during the championship run, so...
let's get out of here with some questions, shall we?
It's fine.
All right. Do you got a pen? We're gonna rank punts. Okay. Well, good thing you have a photographic memory. DeAnthony Melton, Marquise Chris, Goran Dragic, Mario Hezonja. We're gonna go with the chalk. We're gonna go with the 4 chalk plays. So Melton.
You want to throw David Nwaba out there?
I am avoiding David Nwaba. If you want to
that's David fine. Nwaba. So I'm gonna rank it Dragic, Hezonja, Melton, 1, 2, 3.
Beal, pick 2.
Yeah.
Beal, Irving, Booker, Lillard, Levine.
Beal and Booker.
Randall, Aldridge, Markkanen, Anthony Davis, pick 2.
Aldridge and Anthony Davis.
Luka or Devin Booker? Who for cash? Who for GPP? Maybe it's the same answer for both.
Booker probably close. I really do like Luka tonight. I just worry about that knee. Like he even said he's not 100%.
Not 100%. That's scary, man.
Yeah.
Well, that about does it for the questions. That does it for the live stream. Thanks for Steve Pimental, who's behind the scenes today, chopping it up. He produced a great show tonight. There's about 22 minutes exactly until lineup block. We'll be in subscriber chat up until then, taking your questions, answering anything you guys have. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the winner's circle.
See ya.